Hi, everybody. This is Milan Chavarker, nurse practitioner. It's Monday evening. We are trying to go live with my good friend Brandie. We were going to talk about women's health on her TikTok. Okay, so let's see if we can ask her to join. Let's see. Something is... We had some trouble today with TikTok. There you are.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't get on TikTok, but we got on Instagram. If you can't get one, you got another.
TikTok. Oh, social media is like not my forte.
Well,
challenging area.
Hi.
Oh, hi. Hi, Mel. So now there's just
us.
us.
We've got Amanda on there. Hey, Amanda. That's my wonderful assistant, Amanda.
Hi. So TikTok didn't work for us.
Yeah.
I think Milan has to have 1,000 in order for her to go live.
Yeah.
So
poor Amanda. She put the post out there for everybody on all our social. Oh no.
Yeah.
TikTok is a challenge for sure. But
all of the medias have like their little weird caveats. So now we're randomly on here, and there's just the two of us.
We got some other people joining us. That's awesome. This is Hi, this is Milan Chavarker, nurse practitioner located in California. I am a integrative and functional medicine nurse practitioner, and I'm on with my very, 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 very good friend, Brandie Otero, who is a wellness coach, and she has immense experience with nutrition. She's done integrative nutrition courses, and of course, she's a fabulous cook and knows how to make really healthy, yummy things. So we're just hoping more people will join us. But we can at least get started and chat a little bit about, we have this idea to chat on TikTok because you have a lot of followers on TikTok, and you know, with all the things that have happened to you recently, and I think we're on my Instagram, so I don't know if people won't know what happened to you, but can you give like a couple sentence synopsis of what you've experienced, if you don't mind doing that, and then we can kind of talk about what we were going to talk about, which is just women's health and you know, what people need.
Sure. So about 10 years ago, I was having a lot of menstrual issues, very heavy issues. And I went to the doctor, and I went to the emergency room, and they diagnosed me with endometriosis and uterine fibroids. But they didn't have a solution. They said to me, oh, it's hormonal imbalance, and you just have to change your diet. And it just kind of became like the runaround. And it was one doctor after another, after another, after another. So I went from, you know, these very high society, you know, modern medicine doctors that specialize in women's health. And all they wanted to do was do a full hysterectomy, but without really explaining why, or remove like one ovary or the other ovary, or burn the lining of my uterus. And it was just kind of like this really weird, strange thing. And no one could give me answers of why this was happening. And that was my last resort. I felt there was a preventative way, an integrative way, a wellness journey to kind of change the chemistry instead of going straight to a doctor. So for the last 9 years, as you know, I've been practicing wellness, preventative, integrative, and for the most part it worked. But as women and our hormones change and fluctuate, it was unavoidable, and I started becoming more and more tired, and last year like really gaining weight and like a weird belly and all of these things. And my fibroids were sort of taking over my uterus and pushing all of my organs to one side. It's a long story, but in November, I basically had to kind of have like an emergency hysterectomy. And it was not planned, but it happened. and I spent the last 2 months in recovery. And so now I'm going on my 3rd month. This was November, December, January, February. Yeah. So March 11th will be 4
that
months.
was like the real short version of and I'm impressed because we're both talkative people. So I know, I mean, as your friend, I've heard the whole thing, and I remember when this first started happening. And frankly, I think my interest in integrative medicine really started around that time with you. And then I also had a couple of patients coming in with weird symptoms, and, very young women, and kind of started realizing there's more to medicine than, what we're doing in conventional medicine. And I remember like you doing this whole integrative approach, and it really worked for a while. But then you got to this point last year where you really felt surgery was your best option. And we were going through the pros and cons, and, you were talking to me about all of this as your friend. And then of course I'm a medical professional. So, I was 100% like, you got to do what you got to do. And I think it just was a great reminder to me, your story of how complex medical issues are and how different approaches work at different times. And we really need a holistic view of women's health. We need a way to really look at all the options and get what we need for the moment. And women aren't getting heard. And I think that's the thing that I kept hearing from you and this story and over the years, is that you felt like you weren't being heard by the people who are taking care of you. Does that sound right, what I'm saying?
It just, a lot of it was more sort of masking and putting a Band-Aid over it rather than really dealing with what's going on. And after a while, you get kind of tired because you feel like you're going to these quote professionals for the answers, right? They're supposed to have the answers. And every doctor had a different situation, a different scenario, a different idea, and a different theory. Yeah. And so it gets really convoluted when you're like, I'm going to send you to this specialist. So you go to this specialist, and then they're like, oh, no, you don't really need to go to me. You need to go to this person. So you go to that person, like, why did they refer you to me? This isn't my forte. We go here, and then it just becomes very muddled. And then you become very discouraged because our bodies are very complex. Every person has a different chemistry, a different reaction, a different situation. We could both be diagnosed with the same thing, but our bodies are going to react in completely 2 different manners, right? And when you don't look sick on the outside, that's also a misconception because people just assume you're living like a very happy life. And said, oh, you look fine. How many times have you heard that? Oh, you look fine. It's not about looking fine.
That's
it's
the
how you feel.
Part. And I think you've brought up a really good point. Like, our system is so fragmented. People are getting pushed to different providers and different specialists. And there aren't a lot of people who can look at the whole picture. And I think this is kind of what I was talking about with you earlier today. We were trying to figure out what we were going to talk about. And I was saying, I keep hearing from women when they call me to enter care, that they're looking for somebody who has the view of both conventional and natural medicine, who can really look at the whole picture and give them some ideas and work with them and work through this, and then really help funnel them to a lot of different places. And because it's not about just having it's nice to have one person who can really see the big picture. And I think that's tough to find. And I'm one of those few people who can do it. And I've seen other providers who can do it because they have enough experience. I've done family practice and women's health, and I've seen the whole thing. But we need lots of different resources. We need lots of different people to help us. And it's not just about one way to do things. Like you said, everybody's an individual, and we need to kind of figure out and tease out. And it's not so easy, right? People are complex. It's not easy for me. I mean, I really spend a lot of time talking to people about what things might work, what things might not work. What are my theories? What are some ideas? Oh, yay. Hi.
People that joined.
Thanks for joining us. We've got some more people.
Hi, talk about women's health and uteruses if you're interested. If you
or
have
if you
one,
don't have one, if you're interested.
If you have one that's very educational. If you know someone that has a uterus that's in your life and you are supporting them in any way, shape, or form, this is a great conversation, because this is really important. And it's kind of a double standard, I believe, and I hate to use that term, but if a man comes into the medical office and something's wrong with his penis, it is the world shuts down. And they have, you know, magic pills and pumps and all kinds of things and every which way, and becomes a conversation. And now it's, you know, it's on the priority list. But women, you're like, here we go. It's just your period. You just have cramps. You just got to walk. Oh, you're overweight, or it's this or it's that. And so I got the runaround. I mean, I am somebody that has been an advocate my whole life, did the every single year, go, you know, get my, you know, yearly exams, get all my tests, you know, get all of my STDs, get everything done, because that's what women were supposed to do from the moment you start having sex or even thinking about having sex. You get tested every single year. I don't know if men have the same standard, but women, you know, we're put in these positions uncomfortably by society standards. And I've never missed an exam. So how can my entire life of hundreds of people in a positive way be in my vagina looking and scoping and testing, and this never was found? And then all of a sudden it's like, now you wait till I'm 50 and you now like, oh my gosh, you know, now we have to remove everything. And then there's not even like a follow-up for that. That's the other side of it, is you have this very invasive surgery, very personal surgery, personal journey, where you're taking my reproductive system and my organs out. And then you're like, okay, now you can go home and just like give it a couple months. And if a man lost his penis, it would be like on the news. It would be on the news. It would be like, sir, Mr. Smith, what is it like without having a penis? They would be making new ones left and right.
Like, it's just so sad where women's health is. We can, I mean, I would say though, in 20 years of being in 25 years of being in women's health, we've progressed, but not very much. I mean, even with the time, you know, you look at medical visits, the time is shorter, what you get is shorter. We really haven't progressed. Research takes about 20 years. There's like a 20-year lag time, sometimes up to, you know, 30 plus year lag time of implementing research. And then let alone how much research has there been done on women, right? And once your uterus is gone, like, and you're just a man, right? Like, I mean, people just start treating you like you're a man, even maybe you have your ovaries or you don't have your ovaries, whatever it is. But our bodies are different, whether we have a uterus, don't have a uterus. Of course, this is complex because we also have transgender folks and everybody else listening as well. But, you know, everybody's an individual and needs to be treated that way. And I do think that women's health is way more complex than we're giving it time and credit for. And we do need more providers to have an open mind and really understand how can we support women. And I think hormones, and I know now your challenges, if you don't mind sharing, I don't want to talk about your medical record without you talking about your medical stuff.
Yeah. The hormonal challenge is really interesting because when you have endometriosis or cysts or any uterine issues, your hormones are going like this anyway because your body's trying to compensate and it's fighting with itself. It's an internal fight. So your uterus, your ovaries, everything is like, what's going on? So you're already thrown off. So then all of a sudden you wake up and everything's gone.
Yeah.
And now it's the residual hormones in your body that are flushing through. And now you're kind of going from ground zero. And then now you have to take all these things to bring it back. And now it's like, what's going on? So it's changing everything. Headaches, you know, I'm groggy, my body aches. I'm going through like as if I'm like going through it all over again in a weird kind of way. Now, I better not turn into a boy.
You're not going to turn into a boy, but
I come to work with a mustache and beard, we have a problem. But, you know, for the most part, I'm a girl.
There you go. You know, like changing your organs and having to take hormones. And I mean, there's a lot of emotional changes going on there and things to kind of grapple with. And where's the support for that? I mean, I think, you know, this whole process, and I'm seeing that you're going to very good people, you're in a very good medical system in San Diego, but I'm just fascinated by, you know, and I see it from my side because I don't do surgery. Of course, I'm a nurse practitioner. We don't do surgery, but I do support women through a lot of other things, pre and post-op, and I'm just in your process. When I see your process of having had surgery, it reminds me of sort of some of the things that I've encountered when I was pregnant and had C-section, and, you know, kind of support I had. And I was just really lucky to have, you know, family and a husband and, you know, people who could support me through those surgeries, you know, through the C-section I had. But it's very different. And, you know, where's the caretaking in this process and support, you know? And I think it's about finding lots of people who you can connect with, who can support you through the process. And our medical system just doesn't give women what they need, honestly, the way it's set up right now, you know?
Right. It's a one-stop shop. You know, 10 years ago, you'd get a hysterectomy and you're in the hospital for a couple days. They're watching, and my outpatient. So I went in at 5 in the morning and I left at 7 p.m.
Kudos to modern medicine that they can do these.
I was like,
but
what happened? Like, that's how advanced, you know, in some ways science become, because I had robotic, so it wasn't vaginal. There was like a lot of pros. But once you get home and all of that wears off, and you're dealing with pain, and you're like, oh my God, even I turned into a human slinky. I couldn't get out of bed. It's scary when you have caretakers that don't know how to caretake. That's not their profession. They're not nurse doctors and, you know, aides. That's your family and your mother that's panicked and freaking out. And, you know, it wasn't an easy, it's kind of traumatic because you went into a healthcare system with the idea that you're going to get the healthcare that you need. And yeah, they got the job done, but it was like kind of when you get your oil changed, like 10 minutes, you know, okay, all done.
I remember after I had my C-section, right? I mean, literally, I think I was there. I think I got to stay a little longer. I was there for 4 days. Oh my God, I was not ready to go home. I mean, I was ready to go home because I did not want to be in the hospital. But I, you know, again, I mean, luckily I'm a nurse. I could tell everybody what to do for me, you know, how to take care of me. Oh, I need X, Y, and Z. But for the average family, you don't have a medical professional in your home to help you when you are in that transition period.
Yeah, most people can't
No.
afford to have an aide.
It's really sad, and you know, it had been 20 years since I had my C-section, so of course I'm hearing you talk about it, and you know, I love you, so of course you're like a sister to me. So when I'm hearing you go through this, I'm thinking, wow, our system is just so messed up. Like, you know, I know it's messed up from a provider standpoint, but again, you know, you get this real kick in the pants when it's your family member, it's your loved one. Wow. You know, and I wasn't down in San Diego to advocate for you, but, you know, I know your family was there, but it just, you know, it's hard to see and hear your loved ones go through something like this and not feel completely supported. And I think we're really doing a disservice to women with how we provide women's health. And like you said, if it was a guy, would there have been an aide coming to the house, or would there have been more support or more pain meds?
Let him go. Probably not. He would be in a scientific magazine. It would be studies. It would be like Mr. Smith, 2022, first penile removal. He's going to be under lock and key, and every highfalutin doctor around the country is going to be there watching, right? So you're going to go to the best facility, like, you know, UC, you know, Berkeley or wherever it is, and all these scientists and doctors and biochemists organic chemistry is going to be there, and he's going to probably be at UCLA or, you know, somewhere in LA, right? Not me.
Right.
No.
Right. Right.
Some
Yeah.
regular
No,
hospital. You know, so I mean, that's okay. I get it. But when the first man has to lose his penis, besides the guy whose wife cut it off because he was cheating, and threw it out the window, you know, that was pretty major, right? That was pretty major. That's the only time I remember in our timeline where a man lost his penis.
Oh,
and then that song, Detachable Penis. Do you guys? So, you know, I mean, that's it. But with the women, it's almost as if it's such a common, unfortunate situation. And you just kind of be like, okay, thank God I have healthcare. Like,
what do you think in the last, like in your journey or the last 10 years? And, you know, I know what happened to you, but I know you used integrative and functional medicine. You did a lot of different types of therapies. What do you feel? How do you think? I think a lot of people know there's all these different providers, and I feel they're really underutilized. You know, whether it's an acupuncturist or an herbalist or Reiki, there's so many different practitioners out there. And, you know, one of my jobs is, are you still there, Brand? Yeah, it's okay. One of my jobs is to kind of funnel you along your journey when you work with me, to try to look at that whole picture and get help from lots of different places. How do you think, what do you say to women who are like really looking at just using their conventional doctor and not really getting the full picture? Like how can we encourage people to kind of look beyond just conventional medicine to get the help they need? I think this is a day and era where we have to go and advocate for ourselves and find the help we need. What are your thoughts on how people can connect with others?
I think I would be to look at every aspect of medicine, whether it's traditional Chinese medicine, whether it's Ayurvedic, whether it's conventional. You know, it could be anything from spiritual medicine, right? Kind of cleansing your body, cleansing your mind, meditating, yoga, art therapy, psychology,
energy medicine,
movement,
you know,
music, energy medicine, acupuncture, acupressure. I think one of the biggest things that I learned a lot of this was our bodies hold trauma. And if you have trauma in your life, whether it's emotional trauma, physical trauma, mental trauma, we hold it in our uterus because that's from birth, what we identify as. And so all of our energy goes into there because that's our source. So we push things down and push things down and push things down, and we're not taught to stand up for ourselves, right? We're like, be a good girl, don't make any waves. You know, it's our fault, and we have to take accountability for other people's behavior. And I'm learning, and I wish I would have known this to tell myself 10 years ago, that I should have been a stronger advocate. Even though I did find wellness in other ways, I wasn't truly understanding it as a whole. You know what I mean? Okay, I'm going to try this, and if it doesn't work, then I'm going to try this. But it wasn't integrating everything.
I think you hit it on the nail. It's sort of the thing that I'm starting to see now that I'm exclusively doing functional and integrative medicine, is it's not just the physical. It's not just the emotional. It is this. Am I there? Oh.
Yeah, saying hi to my friend Christina.
It's not just the emotional. It's not just the physical. It's not just the mind and the body. It's really about this spiritual, the spiritual aspect of, and the whole concept of trauma. I think we really have not hit on trauma. And I know there's a huge amount of data coming out on adverse childhood experiences. And I know you and I have both been talking about that a lot this last year. And maybe we can talk about that next time. You know, I had something happen this week, and it just, I know I wasn't going to talk about it, but now we're talking about trauma. But, you know, when something happens and something's off, and it triggers you, and you think about your past trauma. And I was bullied as a child. And so I suddenly felt like I was being bullied again, and I was 7 again. And I realized we are not addressing that for women, because most of us, let's face it, all of us have been traumatized in some way or another, just based on our gender, just based on what our role is in this society.
Yeah.
And that in itself is affecting our health. And if we don't address that as a root cause, that's that spiritual connection of, you know, like you said, we're holding it in our gut, and we're holding it in our abdomen, in our uterus. And I trained in Reiki, I trained in Reiki, and I trained in this gynovisceral manipulation technique, and I'm calling it abdominal Reiki / GVM. And we had to practice on each other when I was doing the training. And when people were massaging my abdomen, which, how many times do we get our abdomen massaged? I could feel all the traumas in my past life, in this life, come up as they hit certain pieces of my abdomen. And I would just cry. Like, I could feel when I was, you know, bedridden with my first, I was on bed rest during pregnancy, and I could feel the trauma from that, being depressed, being worried about my baby. And as I massaged right near my liver, because that was where his foot would hit my tummy at the top of my uterus, and I would feel it right there. So I could feel that trauma right there. And as they massaged, it was released. So, you know, I do think this piece about trauma and how do we get to the root cause is not just physical. It's not just emotional. You could do therapy. You could go and get surgery, or you can get, you know, functional and integrative medicine to, you know, I've managed fibroids naturally with functional and integrative medicine, shrunk them. But if we don't fix this root cause of that spiritual disconnection and the trauma we faced, and what about trauma in past lives? I know some people don't believe in past lives, but there's some theories that we hold trauma from past lives, you know?
Different imprints of things in the past.
That's called epigenetics. Actually, they talk about epigenetics affecting us, you know? We're holding our ancestors, all our trauma from our ancestors.
Yeah. I mean, how else do you explain these things that we know and don't know, and that we're comfortable with and not comfortable with, and people that you meet in this lifetime that you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so connected to you. How do you explain that? How do you explain walking into a room and immediately feeling like, oh gosh, like the person's got a bad vibe or bad energy? Sense that, like, there's a familiarity. Your body knows, your energy knows, your chemistry knows, your biological senses know, you know, when you're close to someone or not, like they repulse you or not. There's a thing, there's something that's happening. And with women, I think because we've been traumatized in so many lifetimes, just as being women, right? I mean, if they assume that you were a witch, they would tie bricks to your shoes and throw you. And if you floated, you weren't, which we know is like
somewhere
logical,
that a lot of women healers, a lot of us, you know, like you and I, were probably hunted, you know, in a past life, because we were healers in a past life. Now, I don't want to get too metaphysical, because I know some people don't believe in past life, but you know, I mean, at least the trauma in this life, we definitely carry in our body. And so, you know, at least if you don't believe in that other stuff, I think we have to address that.
Right. And you had asked earlier in this conversation, you know, how would I have changed my journey, or what I'd have done differently? And not one single doctor ever came to me and asked me about my emotional well-being, my mental well-being, any issues at home, anything, like nothing. It's all about fill out this questionnaire. Do you have diseases? We know the clinical diet. We know how clinicians work. You know this. I mean, you've been handing out these to people for many, many years, right? And that box doesn't fit everyone's needs. So I gave them blank. And I was like, this doesn't apply to me because of this. That question's not, that doesn't work for me. And as we know, I'm an outside of the box person. And I think a huge part of my healing has been through my creativity. We know this creativity is my superpower. It changes my chemistry. It changes how I process. And it's my gift to other people. It helps me move through things. And I've always used that as my sort of like way to escape. But now it's my way of functioning. Like if I'm not creating something, writing something, you know, a gratitude board or whatever it is, I'm not fully giving myself that joy.
You found your healing power, which is great. You know, I think so many of us have probably not tapped into what truly brings us joy and heals us on a daily basis. We're just kind of going through the motions and doing everything we have to do. And those are important questions, I think, that we should ask in medicine. But of course, you know, we got 15 minutes and, you know, I have an hour. I have an hour with my patients now. But, you know, I used to have 15 minutes and I still was able to do a lot because, you know, I made the effort to get to know people. And, but it wasn't easy, you know, and I think it's sad that we don't, I think, not that I don't think the medicine wants to. I don't think physicians and nurses and nurse practitioners like myself or physician assistants, all those wonderful providers out there don't want to know that information. I think they do. They just don't have the time. And our system is not set up to really, truly care for people, which is why I do what I'm doing right now, because I got tired of it. You know, I got tired of not being able to give the way I want to give and truly listen the way I want to listen. So, but I think this was awesome. We really, I think we touched on a lot of stuff in a half an hour, and we had TikTok problems, but we overcame them.
We now have TikTok problems. Now we have to figure that out. And then once we can do that, then we'll hit the other end of the masses. I'm not doing Facebook right now, which is not a big deal. I'm not really missing it, but you know, on our next conversation, we can tap into that kind of like, you know, a little bit more on the peripherals of women's trauma, women's health, their emotional and mental well-being, how that connects to us and to our immune systems, right? Because, you know, in traditional Chinese medicine, if you have, say, you know, I don't know, say like your neck hurts all the time, you know, you're holding your emotions in your shut nose and in your, you know, in your gut. If you can't stomach things, you have digestive issues. It's because you're not able to digest things in your life. If you have a sore throat or, you know, swallowing issues, it's because you're literally having to suck things down. Like there's so many things that are metaphorically with our body that people don't understand and don't want to think about it because it's challenging and changing how we see the world, because everyone wants to be like, it's this plus this equals this. And that's conventional. And I got really lucky in some ways because my surgeon, I could tell that she was a little bit more on the spiritual side. And, you know, when she chose, well, we had to pick a day immediately. And the first day that came available was 11/11, which are angel numbers, which are magic numbers. And she was like, those are the days. That's it. We're locking those days in. And I was like, okay, that's very symbolic if you follow numbers, right? So 11/11/22, that only comes every 200 years, those digits. So I felt like there was a lot of things in the world that were coming around and the universe was paying attention. And as scary as it was, and it's still awkward and uncomfortable, you know, for obvious reasons, because this isn't something that's just going to heal within a day, a week, a month. And if I were a man and my penis was removed, it would be like I would have lifelong medical surgeries and a team of people that would volunteer their services in a heartbeat and help me rebuild a man's biggest, strongest penis. But, you know, you rip out my uterus and you're like, good luck with that. Okay. See you in 2 months. Yeah. That's going to be plagued with, you know, God knows, yeast infections for the rest of your life.
Good, because you're resilient. You know how to advocate for yourself. You know how to get all those different team members for yourself to help you. And you know, you have me. I'm always here for you. So,
and I appreciate that. And that's, you know, it's a big thing. And I wish we need to have more conversations like this. We need to have more candid conversations. Women need to be more comfortable talking about their bodies. We're still having this issue. It is 23. We need to not feel shy about it. I mean, that's is how are we going to get better if we aren't teaching ourselves to be our own advocates and talk about it? And why is it this not part of our medical system? If women are having fibroids and endometriosis, and these are kind of, you know, and endometriosis is uncurable. It is a disease, and you go to work and, you know, you pretend everything is great, but there's no protection if something happens to you at work, right? Yeah. So I had to go through all of this to get, you know, not to get time off from work, but because it was a scheduled situation, like there's no, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense. But then again, you know, why are we being taxed on women's period products?
I think there's so many different topics we can talk about. So I love this. This was a great beginning, and I'm so glad we decided to go on Instagram since we couldn't get TikTok to work. So hopefully we'll get TikTok to work. And thank you so much. I'm so grateful to have you as a friend. And I'm so grateful that you're out there advocating for, you know, being a wellness advocate, helping women. You know, I know you have a lot of followers on TikTok. She's what is it? Creativity is my superpower is your TikTok. And I love the messaging you're giving. I love the support you're giving. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of having you as a friend. And I hope that we can continue to have these conversations and help enlighten women how to get the help that they need. You know, I'm here in the Bay Area, in San Francisco Bay Area, California, and I see patients in California. I am getting licensed in Arizona, Oregon, and Washington. I have my nursing license in Arizona. And so I really want to help as many people as I can. I can't get licensed in all 50 states. It's just too much work and too much to keep track of. We don't have a national system, unfortunately, for nurse practitioners for licensing, but I'm here to help. And I think at least if we can reach out to people through social media and use it for some good. I know a lot of people don't like social media, and I'm one of those people who has a love-hate relationship with social media. So I use it. My love for social media is I can share my experience, give knowledge, give people ideas on integrative and functional medicine, how it can help women's health, how it can help general health. I know I take care of men too. I take care of fertility. And I think you're doing the same thing. And I think, you know, we should give ourselves a little pat on the back for trying to help others, because I think a lot of social media is just garbage and there's nothing useful about it. And this is something useful. I think, you know, giving information.
Right. And we need to, you know, figure out a way to do like a monthly, you know, live or every 2 weeks or something, and pick a really good topic like this, like women's health, and talk about our uteruses, or the ones that we don't have anymore, and talk about what that's like, because it's scary. Going to the doctor and having just a regular exam every year is uncomfortable. It's awkward. The fear factor of what if they find something? What if there is something in there? What if I have a disease? What if it's this or that, right? Cancer and uterine issues and all of those things. And, you know, being an advocate of always going and no one ever detecting any of this is a shock to me, because you're poking around in there and you're looking for things, but you know, that's not thorough enough. And if you feel something, say something, right? If you don't feel well, keep pushing. I mean, I am a pretty aggressive person, and I did the best that I could do. And I sat on this for a long time because part of me became complacent. Like, doctors don't care. And maybe I'm over exaggerating, because women are taught that we're just drama, right? When it comes to our health and comes to periods and comes to these things. And then the next thing you know, you're in this situation, and could have been avoided. I don't know. You know, my doctors say one thing, and it's genetic and it's hereditary, and you know, you had this your whole entire
We shouldn't
life.
suffer.
Like, okay,
I think that the take-home message is women don't deserve to suffer, and we need to speak up more.
Right.
And, you know, we've seen some movement around that, but I think we need to really advocate for women's health, what women need, none of us should suffer. We should get the support we need. We should have insurance cover all these things. We should have insurance cover our pads and our, you know, our Diva cups or whatever you use. You're right. These are all important topics.
Right.
So, but let's wrap it up because my family needs to eat. I'm sure a lot of other people need to eat. This California time, 8 o'clock. It's probably 11 o'clock in other areas. But I'm so grateful that we got a chance to get on, and we will do this again. Thank you so much. I love you. I always will love you, Brandie. Thank you so much. And
thank you. Email.
I know. We'll figure
out the TikTok thing.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us. I see quite a few people joined us, and I'm so grateful that you joined us this late to talk about women's health. And we're going to have a recording up, of course, so that people can take a look at it. And then we'll hopefully put a recording on TikTok and as well.
This was very lives.
This was not planned. We would have let everyone.
We would have let everyone if this was the thing. So don't feel like you missed out or you didn't get the memo, because we didn't get the memo. We just came on. So, all right, Mel. Y'all talk soon. We'll plan our next attack.
Bye, everybody. Have a good evening. Everyone. Take care.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes.
Love you, uteruses.